I think there's at least one more thing that I want to talk about, at least. Oh, uh, all right. This is gonna be one topic. This is gonna be one topic because, um, of course, the war in Ukraine is something that is close to my heart. Let's just say what is happening in Ukraine leaves me very tense very often, very worried. And now Russia is resorting once again to utilizing nuclear blackmail, nuclear flexing, nuclear saber rattling. Not so long ago, Russia has, as we all know, changed its nuclear doctrine, changed its quote unquote red lines that will cause Russia to utilize its nuclear arsenal. And now things have sort of kind of gotten, I want to say further, but actually it doesn't necessarily have to mean anything beyond trying to stoke fear in the West. Russia has been performing strategic drills that would simulate a mass response to a first strike, to a first nuclear strike. We all know what a first strike is. This one side that has nuclear arsenal strikes the enemy first. It's pretty self-explanatory. First strike. There's really no need for a in-depth explanation to the concept. Russia test-fired missiles over distances of thousands of miles on Tuesday to simulate a massive nuclear response to an enemy first strike. Given the growing geopolitical tensions, oh yeah, by the way, that red line that Russia has said is the new red line is, of course, giving Ukraine permission to strike targets deep in Russian territory using long-range missiles, etc. That is the supposed new red line that Russia has before it will resort to using nuclear weapons. It even says here Russia says changes to its nuclear policy are a signal to the West. Of course, it's a signal to the West. There's no other purpose, literally, to the change of the doctrine. The signal is you should be afraid. That is the whole purpose of it. You should back off. You should stop aiding Ukraine. That is the signal. It's not really a signal that is extremely hard to decipher. It took place at a critical moment in the Russia-Ukraine war, which is happening now. After weeks of Russian signals to the West that Moscow would respond if the United States and its allies allowed Kyiv to fire longer-range missiles deep into Russia. On Monday, NATO said that North Korea has sent troops to western Russia, something Moscow has not denied. In televised comments, Defense Minister Andrei Belosov told Putin that the purpose of the drill was to practice delivering a massive nuclear strike by strategic offensive forces in response to a nuclear strike by the enemy. See? Which, of course, the West is not planning to do any first strikes, so that is just cyber rattling. It's just trying to scare the West with nuclear weapons. The exercise involved Russia's full nuclear triad of ground, sea, and air-launched missiles. Ayar's intercontinental ballistic missile was launched from Plesetsk Cosmodrome in northwest Russia to Kamchatka, a peninsula in the Far East. Sineva and Bulava ballistic missiles were fired from submarines, and cruise missiles were launched from strategic bomber planes, the defense ministry said. Although we are They are ramping up the rhetoric. They are ramping up the things, the scary tactics. Change of doctrine done, and now the drills. So Russia is certainly ramping up its scare tactics when it comes to this war, which could indicate that Russia feels pressured. That Russia is feeling that should um, the West start treating aid seriously, things could not go as well as they are going now. According to Lukashenko, the Russia's nuclear doctrine update was long overdue. The two uh, and 2.5-year-old war is entering what Russian officials say its most dangerous phase, as the West considers how to shore up Ukraine while the Russian forces advance in the east of the country, like the city of Pokrovsk, for example. Putting said using nuclear weapons would be an extremely exceptional measure. I stress that we are not going to get involved in a new arms race, but we will maintain nuclear forces at the level of necessary sufficiency, he said. He added that Russia was moving to new stationary and mobile based missile systems, which have a reduced launch preparation time and could overcome missile defense systems. The drill follows an October 18th exercise the drill follows an October 18th exercise in the Tver region, northwest of Moscow, involving field movements by a unit equipped with Yars intercontinental ballistic missiles capable of striking US cities. So there we go. A clear sign to the West, as mentioned above, a clear signal to the US, as mentioned above, that back off, don't give Ukrainian the permissions that they want, do not give Ukrainians the aid that they want, or else you might force our hand to unleash nuclear Armageddon, which I personally think that the West should call Russia's bluff and that Ukraine should be supported towards victory. But let's just say that I guess I have a bias. Let's just say that I have a bias in all of this. So I'm a pretty biased person when it comes to this conflict. I'm a pretty biased person when it comes to how aid should be handled by the West. I'm pretty biased when it comes to the topic of how escalation should be handled, of how it should be handled, everything, all of it. And I'm pretty pissed with how it's not handled. Do you consider likely on the individual level that if Russian soldiers were ordered to assist in some way with a nuclear weapons attack that they would refuse orders? I don't think so. But then again, I highly doubt that scenario will ever come to pass. I think it's more of a pressure scary tactic. It's literally nuclear blackmail. That is what it is. Russia is trying to blackmail the West out of aiding Ukraine in order to get carte blanche, to get what it wants, which, again, is pointed out by many journalists, pundits, commentators, officials. This sets a pretty bad precedent. This sets a very dangerous precedent of all nuclear powers feeling that they can basically do whatever they want against their neighbors that do not have nuclear arsenal, and then say, you will allow us to annex you, or else we'll just use our nuclear arsenal. Nuclear blackmail cannot be means by which countries invade other countries and redraw borders. This is not a precedent that can be allowed to take root. It's not something that can be allowed to become an established fact of the world. That countries with nuclear power can just do whatever they want to those without, because it'll, of course, naturally it will lead to a race of those countries that do not have nuclear weapons to obtain them. Like that will be the only logical conclusion for those countries. Of course. What else would they do? Allow themselves to be attacked, annexed, and no one's gonna do anything about it? Like even if those countries would prepare in conventional warfare, what's stopping the country, the attacker, the assaulter, the invader, the aggressor of basically saying, "Oh, we're losing the conventional war. Well, you better put down your weapons now. You've had your fun, but it's over. Unless you surrender, we're gonna have to resort to our nuclear arsenal now." What then? Who would come to their aid? Like this is a very like it's pretty. So no, I don't think. I think the managing escalation should not be so one-sided. It is extremely one-sided. Russia does not look out for escalation at all. Russia escalates however it wants, and the West is afraid to do anything. Is that not the unspoken state of things anyway that anyone with the end of the world weapons has more ability to get away with things? It could be damned. No, no, not in the case of nuclear weapons. No, the nuclear taboo is pretty strong. If that were the case, then why did the U.S. retreat from Vietnam? Vietnam is not a nuclear power. Why not? Why didn't just the U.S. threaten uh, nukes and all the other conflicts that the U.S. was involved in? The U.S. is a nuclear power. Why didn't it just get what it wanted in uh, Vietnam? The nuclear taboo is strong. It is strong for a reason. And breaking that taboo, nobody wants that. Sincerely, nobody wants that. The USSR and China were threatening nukes over Vietnam. That is why. Well, the US is clearly not threatening nukes over Ukraine. So, here you go. There you go. Nuclear taboo is there for a reason. When Russia in 2022 started threatening nukes, China and India stepped in pretty quick to say no, rein it in. We do not appreciate your nuclear posturing, actually. So, yeah. Yeah, but it also stands that since the nuclear taboo is strong, uh, then the West should not just keep from threatening nukes, but also not fold to any threats regarding nukes. To not just fold and be like, oh, okay, we're gonna back down and not do anything, you know? Because remember, a nuke scenario would mean also a permanent end for Russia. So, who'd actually win? Alrighty, that's a wrap on this topic.